I was really impressed by your presentation. I'm still thinking about all the great visuals, and also Andrew's presentation yesterday. It's got me thinking about the flu season as well. But good afternoon. My name is Sarah Christnesen, and I am the Nordic Digital Director at Novartis, working primarily with the Nordics. And I'm here today to talk about measuring ROI. So it's about measuring what matters, so getting to the true impact of your customer engagement tactics. And it's a question that I see over and over again. It's a question that it was popped up very frequently at the Reuters conference in London a couple of weeks ago. How do you measure impact? What are the KPIs we should be tracking? Do we prefer qualitative over quantitative KPIs? And how do we measure success? Now, before I go into that and answer those questions, I want to first capture what is customer engagement, and I want to define customer engagement. So customer engagement is what we do to build and maintain a relationship with our customers. And these range from different interactions, say with our field force, going out to meeting the customers, our medical managers, to all the material and the touch points that we create with our customers. And customer engagement nowadays is focused on creating a good customer experience, which is otherwise focused around customer centricity. Now, traditionally, back in when we've more traditional marketing methods, we were focused on driving customers into the sales funnel. So first, we were focusing on what I like to call the ABC, focusing on creating awareness, driving B, brand promotion, and then hooking them in with a call to action. But as we go more and more into focusing our efforts around the customer and driving good customer engagement tactics, we need to focus first on the customer, what their needs are, then on the data, validate and test your hypothesis of your tactics or your strategies with your customer with the data. And if that works, reiterate that and use it to drive a better or enhanced customer experience. And when we move from ABC to CDE, the metrics such as customer engagement scores or NPS scores will become much more relevant than share of voice. And this is especially true as we focus on more outcome-driven marketing, as well as moving towards health-come system-based outcomes. Now, to give you an example of how this looks like in practice, I'm going to share with you my experiences from the telecommunications industry. So before I joined the life science and pharmaceutical industries, I was employed at Telenor. So Telenor is one of the Nordic's largest telecommunications service provider, mobile phones, home internet, those sorts of things. And I was employed back in the glory days of telecom. So if we all recall back to when we had phones back in the 2000s, we had to pay for our minutes. We had to pay for our SMSs. There was no such thing as data roaming or data rollover, these sorts of things, because all of these were classified as individual revenue streams. Now, as competition got more fierce and as a way to attract customers, to reduce churn, what companies started doing was they started to offer these things for free. So you had Telenor competing with other Norwegian operators such as Telia, OneCall, etc. And all the bosses are sitting at the table going, don't do it, don't offer data rollover, don't offer data rollover. And then typically in Norway, it's Telia. Telia always comes out first, and then they roll out these massive campaigns. We were first in Norway to offer data rollover. We get to the customer's needs first. But as soon as they do it, overnight, that revenue stream is lost. Now, in the long term, it's not a sustainable business model. So the telecommunications industry started to look at the customer journey. They had to innovate and differentiate their service offerings, which is similar to all the other players in the telecommunications industry. So going through the customer journey, focusing on elevating or neutralizing pain points and creating solutions and niche products that address these pain points. So I don't know if you know it or not, but your mobile phone company has a lot of data on you, more data than you're probably comfortable with. because they analyze your usage, they look at your family, they look at your patterns. They also analyze lots of big data, not only from your demographics, but also what you do and what you don't do with your phone, but also where you are located, and also what your family and friends are doing. So using this data, they then they hyper-segment you and tailor product or service offering specific to your needs. And lastly, they set the KPIs specific to the target and goal that they want to achieve, and they use sophisticated marketing mix modeling, attrition models, lift analysis to analyze the success of their marketing tactics. Now, for them, it's easy to define return on investment. They work with transactional data moving from A to B. And this is very different for us in pharma. We market to customers a product for the end user, which is eventually paid with the healthcare systems. And for those of you here responsible for A&P budget, how do you do that? How do you measure return on impact? How do you measure return on investment? And you might get more and more asked of this from your management. So what do you do? Well, what I've seen people typically do is they deep dive on the metrics. And I call this the evolution of the marketing measurement. They create lots of metrics because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Then they get lost in the metrics. But a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. So then they begin to prioritize the metrics. But not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. Now, what I see, especially in teams where you have a divide between the marketing and digital personnel, is a misalignment of goals. So I've sat in a meeting with a digital manager, has reported to the country a wildly successful campaign showing great reach and frequency. But they couldn't answer the managing director when the managing director asked, but what success did the campaign achieve beyond reach and frequency? Now, in this instance, reach and frequency were merely vanity KPIs. The call to action, the specific purpose of the campaign, which was to get the people in to see their GPs, wasn't tracked. And this is the KPI that would have been a more meaningful KPI and a more meaningful measurement. So it's a difference between looking at and tracking vanity versus actionable KPIs. So vanity KPIs look great on paper, but they don't lead anywhere. Whereas actionable KPIs are something that can be measured and that eventually will have a knock-on effect with the goal you're trying to achieve. And you also want to be looking at leading versus lagging KPIs. So if I think of lagging KPIs as something that won't be realized until the future, especially when we work in a non-linear transaction model where the efforts of what we do today perhaps won't be seen until 6, 9 to 12 months later. So your lagging KPIs might be eventual healthcare outcomes. They might be, growth in patient numbers, growth in sales numbers, etc. But your leading KPIs will give you a good indication of whether or not you're going to meet your lagging KPIs. So a leading KPI would be something like, the number of visits to your website, click-through rates, open rates, those sorts of things. Because if you're not getting anyone into your website, if you're not engaging with anyone, then you can be sure that your activities aren't actually contributing to the lagging KPIs. So what I would recommend you do is, first of all, you create the why, and then let the numbers tell the story. So successful customer engagement strategies are those that align with and contribute to specific business objectives so that we can measure the impact of our tactics and evaluate their effectiveness. So number one, and this is what I do with my team and also with the marketing teams in the Nordics, I start by defining the strategic objectives. Now these could be company-wide objectives, business unit objectives, lagging KPIs such as patient numbers or sales growth, or it could be outcomes-based. Then I create the KPI framework, and these should be based on metrics that matter to achieving that business goal. So let's say, for example, I'm launching a new drug. Let's call it Remipan, and it's to endocrinologists. My business objective would be to increase the number of patients, but my goal is to increase awareness. However, my company has low consent rates for endocrinologists. So a relevant KPI for me would be to increase the number of consents. And my initiatives would involve all the ways to achieve that KPI. So ensuring that I'm signing up, I'm inviting consent at every touch point, and that's what I'm going to track. Now, it's not a KPI that's relevant to everyone, but it's extremely relevant to me and the success of my goal. Now, this approach should be scalable. At the top, you should only have 2 to 3 goals at a maximum, and you want to create consistent KPIs that you can track across your tactics. Now, these KPIs should provide meaningful and specific insights into the performance of a particular aspect of a business or a process, and they should be able to drive action and improvement. So if I'm sort of going again towards launching this new drug, I would create specific tactics. I would then find 4 or 5 or 6 KPIs which I can then measure across each of these tactics and create that KPI framework. And I would then use these to drive, I would set the leading KPIs and I would use this to drive how I'm doing, and I would measure the success that way. And I could look at it across from the operational, tactics, and strategics. And that's how I will influence where I'm going with my marketing campaigns. But finally, the more data you have, the more data you're able to consolidate and track across all your touch points, the more you can begin to see the patterns and insights which can be used to direct your future engagement tactics. So, in summary, and to really help you define which KPIs to focus on, I want to leave you with 3 points to ask yourself when you're creating customer engagement tactics or marketing campaigns. Now, number 1, have I identified the triple win? I have seen countless project plans where someone has defined the goal to be like, my goal for this project is to invite X amount of HCPs to a webinar series. That's a deliverable, it's not a goal. Identifying the triple win is about identifying the need for the customer, the need for your company, and the need for the patient. Now, there are 2 words I use to probe and identify, and these are so that. So that, for example, I would like to create a patient support program that is published through a digital health app so that I can collect patient-reported outcomes and create a closed loop between the HCP and patient so that they can have the latest information that helps their treatment decisions so that the patient can stop cycling through ineffective treatments. So I've identified the need for the patient to stop cycling through ineffective treatments. I've identified the need for the HCP for more informed decision-making, and I've identified the need for the company, which is an effective switch strategy. Number 2, to ask yourself, what are your measures of success? So in order to make your initiative or tactic a success, what is going to need to happen? So again, going back to the example of a patient support program, a measure of success could be the number of endorsements or level of co-creation with your HCP or KOL. It could be the number of app downloads, completed call to actions, or our percentage of market penetration. These have to be the KPIs that are meaningful to you, to your campaign, to your company, and measurable and specific to your tactic. And lastly, what needs to be true? So in order for me to launch a digital health app with a closed loop, I'm actually going to need an offer to connect with the patient with the HCP through the app. And I'm actually going to need buy-in from both internal and external stakeholders, otherwise I'll never get it off the ground. So by asking yourself these 3 things, have I identified the triple win? What are my measures of success? And what needs to be true? You will create KPIs that are meaningful, measurable, and to what you're trying to achieve. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. I think you said the keyword before. It's not about data or KPIs, it's about insights. The only thing that drives value is really the insights. Now, the CEO obviously asked what was the result of a campaign, and the marketing KPIs as such were not interesting. The interesting thing is the whole across the whole customer journey. So my point is, in order to create valuable insight, it's not enough with marketing KPIs. You need to talk to sales. You may even talk to external stakeholders as well. How do you work with this, should we say, variety of stakeholders creating more holistic KPIs?
I want to say the marketer within me would like to sort of say, I let the data tell the story. So I look at the bulk of the data, the quantity data coming through, and that tells me what I need to know. However, if I'm working with more complex projects, which involve a lot of internal stakeholders, they will be involved in the project plan themselves. There will always be feedback, there will always be insights from them. And one of the things I like to do, and this is from me coming out of ex-Pharma, not coming from Pharma per se, I find in Pharma we spend a lot of money on market research, focus groups. However, some of the biggest insights we can get is actually putting ourselves in the shoes of our customers and walking the steps our customers would walk, doing exactly what they do. And by getting the field force to do the same, you're creating a lot of valuable insights, which then you can use to test or hypothesize. Because what you want to do is you want to fail fast, get back together, reiterate, and improve on your product offering. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Any further questions? No. Thank you.